Alright, so welcome to my War Thunder videos. It's a long time ago since I've uploaded a video. Anyway, I'm back after 4 months, and the first video what you are going to see from me is me talking about um well, how to start War Thunder. This is a complete noob guide, and I will probably split this series up in 5 videos, I think. The first 2 videos will be Hangar, the second video will be tips and tricks and tactics used in battle, and the fourth video, well, let's see. Just going the, to join all the rest into the fourth video. So anyway, in the first video, so this is your hangar. You just joined Wharton, and this is probably the first thing you see. Well, the first thing you see is probably these empty slots here where the planes and the tanks are supposed to be. And you have one reserve plane, probably what is the P-26 in America. But you also have the choice, and I want to say we are on patch 1.45 now. We are on patch 1.45. This game changes every 2 to 3 months, so it could be that what I'm now saying that it's not true anymore in 6 or 7 months. So excuse me for that. But anyway, you might have I've never had this option, but you might have the option to choose your nation. No, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what kind of nations you choose at the beginning of the game, because after 20 battles you're going to unlock every nation otherwise, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to discuss every nation's strength, the buttons, what you have here, where they stand for, and stuff like that. So I'm trying to keep this video under 30 minutes. I don't know if it might be longer. We are already 4 minutes in, so yeah, let's start. For the first In the first section, I want to talk about the nation's strength and weaknesses. Every nation has its own strength and weaknesses. For example, this is the USA. The USA. Yeah. By the way, before we start about that, I want to talk. I want to tell you two times. There are two types of planes in this game for the fighters, though. There are boom and zoomer planes, and there are dogfighting planes, or turn fighters, like we call them here. The turn fighters are those typical dogfights you see on TV, like Spitfires turning in each other with BF-109s and trying to get some kills and trying to be the most maneuverable and the most skillful pilot. That's a turn fighter. But you also have boom and zoomers. Now, what is boom and zoomers? Boom and zoomers, they build up a lot of altitude and they dive onto you from like 3 to 4,000 meters. They build up a lot of speed in the dive. They try to hit you. They have only like 2 seconds to shoot at you. And if they do not kill you, they pull back up, get all their altitude back up, but they lose their speed though. But they get all their altitude. They turn around and try to do the same thing. That's boom and zoom. And I'm just going to discuss this really short. I'm going to explain it more in the next video in the tactics and your first battle. But anyway, this is what you need to know, because this is how it splits into nations. The US is very known for their machine guns, because nearly every single plane here has a 12.7 M2 Browning machine gun. As you can see here down below, 12.7 M2 machine gun, 12.7 M2 machine gun, 12.7 M2 machine gun, 12.7 M2 machine gun. Oh, and a 7.62 also. But anyway, you know what I'm meaning. Now, the plus side from having a machine gun is that you have more chance to hit them. You have a better accuracy because it shoots faster. The rounds per minute are quicker than a cannon, for example, but they do less damage. So that's what you have to pay for it. Um, And if you hit a small burst, you're going to set them on flames immediately also. But if you just hit one bullet, it's not going to do very much. So that's the con side of it. But this is where America or the US is known for all the 50 cals, even the jets. Like for example here, you still see that they're using 12.7 M3 Browning machine guns. So from the P-26 to the F-86 F2. They use all kinds of machine guns. Also, where the US is known for is the bomber line. Everyone knows the B-17s, the B-24. The US is quite known for the bomber line and also the naval fighters. And I'm going to explain in a few minutes what's the difference between a naval fighter, bomber, heavy bomber. You can skip to that if you want. But the also in terms of turn fighting and dog fighting, USA is kinda both. For example, if you play versus Japan, it's better to boom and zoom them. If you play versus Germany, it's better to dogfight them. US is a 50-50 tech tree on that side. And I'm going to switch over to the next. I'm telling you, I'm going to do this very quickly. The Germans are known for their boom and zoomers. The Germans, they have like don't even try to dogfight with them. You have to boom and zoom with these planes. Um, Germany is known for their big armament, like their big cannons, their big fire. They can deal such a big punch even with the regular fighters. I mean, you may see that you see 30 millimeter MK108 cannon times 1, and you can upgrade that to 3 30 millimeter cannons. This is Germany. Germany, lots of cannons, big damage, but they're not that maneuverable. They are very quick, they regain their energy very quickly also, so that's why I recommend to play them as an energy fighter. Don't play them as a dogfighter. Also, what Germany is known for is their good attacker line, heavy fighter line. I mean, like for example here, all the heavy fighters have lots of guns, but I mean lots of guns. So grinding for Germany's heavy fighter line is also a pretty good idea. And of course they're gonna attack all the Junkers, Stukas. Everyone knows Stukas, I think. So yeah, the jets are not that good. People may think like, oh, I have to get an ME262. No, trust me, there's a reason why I went for the previous planes first. The ME262 is not that good. So is the C1, so is the C2. It's not because it's good in World War II that it's good in this game. Don't go for it. I don't recommend to immediately rush forward. Just play some with your just play with your planes of Era 4, Era 3, Era 2. They're the most fun. The jets are not that much fun in Germany. The only fun jets are the CL-13 and the MiG-15, what are not even German jets actually. They're land leased. Then we have Russia. Russia is very good at early games, so most noobs or most newbies start off with Russia because the Russian planes are very strong. They have a very good structural strength in arcade, not in realistic. Yeah, you have a difference between the different kinds of game modes, by the way, but I'm going to explain that in the next video with your first battle. But the Russians are very good in arcade modes because of their higher structural strength, and also they can deal a big punch in early tier. They won't deal that much damage in tier 4 or tier 3, but they will in tier 1 and the early tier 2 planes. So that's Russia. Russia, boom and zoom, energy fighting depends on who you're facing. If you're facing the Japs, it's better to it's better to boom and zoom there. If you're fighting versus Germans, it's better to, well, energy fight them. I'm sorry, turn fight them. So yeah, also the Russians are very good versus tanks and ground forces because they're very good attackers, like the IL-2, the P-3. They're very good ground attackers also. That's typical Russian. Um, so the next here we have Britain. Britain is all about dogfighting. This line is all about dogfighting till you reach tier 4, though, till you reach tier 5. Um, of course, everyone knows the Spitfires. Spitfires are just made to dogfight. They are pretty good boom and zoomers. Sometimes I use them as a boom and zoomer, but it's better to use them as a turn fighter. Also, the heavy line is pretty good. I mean, the Mosquito is very quick and maneuverable. It's a very good ground attacker. Also, the bow fighters, of course, everyone knows the bow fighters. Then we have the bomb. The bomber line is not that good. It's not good at all. The Lancaster is pretty good. The Canberra is also pretty good, but that's around it. Don't even dare to use the Wellingtons. You're going to get shot down immediately. And this is the only line what I recommend for you to use as boom and zoomers. The Tempest, the Typhoon, try to use them as boom and zoomers. They are pretty good in turn fighting, but I wouldn't recommend it. Then we have the Meteors. Of course, the Meteors, everyone. Well, the Meteors. Probably when you reach tier 5 you know enough how to play jets, because jets are pretty difficult to play. Then we have Japan. Japan is all about turn fighting. all about turn fighting. I mean, there are of course a couple of exceptions like the N1K or the KI-84, but for the rest, play them as turn fighters. You want to play them as turn fighters. The bomber line is not that. The Japs they have very high defensive armament on their bombers, but they do not carry that much bombs, even on a heavy bomber. The jets, I haven't tried them yet, as you can see. I can't tell anything about that, I'm sorry. And the heavy fighters, I do not like the heavy fighters, I'm sorry. And now I'm going to talk about the difference between a heavy fighter, a naval fighter. So, at first you have a light fighter. Light fighters are your reserve planes. Your reserved planes you start off with. Um, the reserve planes are free to repair and they gain quite some, well, quite some money also. Um, and they are the lowest possible battle rating that you can get. Um, and these are the only light fighters in the game. Then you jump on immediately to the fighter. The fighter is very maneuverable. The fighter is pretty quick also, but the fighter doesn't really carry that much armament and isn't really that armored either. They're very easy once if you get your guns onto them to take down, and they do not deal that much of a punch like the heavy fighters do. Um, so that's a fighter. They're very maneuverable and they're very quick, but they do not have that much armament and armor on them. Then we have a naval fighter. The only difference between a naval fighter and a fighter is that the naval fighters can take off carriers and they can land on carriers because they have a tailhook. That's the only difference. So, moving on. A light bomber. A light bomber is very maneuverable, but it doesn't have that much bombs. Mostly a light bomber also has some guns. Not a lot of guns, even less than a fighter. But light bombers, I don't like them. Let's say it like that. I don't like heavy bombers. Light bombers. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm not going to talk about. If you if you want more information about a light bomber, it's better to go to the wiki because I don't really know that much about them. A hydroplane is a plane that can take off on water. Like you see, it has a ski under its plane. So that's a hydroplane. It can take off water and it can land on water. But I do not really like the hydroplanes because it it slows down your plane. That's key. And that's what I don't like about it. And now we have a dive bomber. A dive bomber is the typical tactic used by Germany in the early days of the war, like those Junkers or the Stukas would dive down and throw bombs. The plus side of a dive bomber is that it's very accurate. If you want to dive onto a tank, you're going to hit it. It's very accurate. Mostly used versus ships and tanks. A dive bomber, but they do not carry that much bombs. Once if you drop your bombs, you're done. You do not have any extra bombs, so then you have to return back to base. And a naval bomber, it's what the word it says. It can carry off. It can land on carriers and take off carriers. So yeah. Next we have an attacker. Now what's an attacker? An attacker is made for ground kills. This is made for ground strike. What's ground strike? Like for example killing tanks, killing light pillboxes. That's ground strike. Attackers, they are made to kill ground kills. Now this plane has a 75mm, as you can see, cannon. And that cannon can take down some light pillboxes and tanks. But it's not made versus other planes. Attacker is a typical plane with lots of rockets, lots of bombs, but they are not as accurate as a dive bomber. But they do carry more bombs and rockets. So, and they also have some guns on them. So you can use them as a fighter, but they are not that maneuverable as a fighter. So if you go into a 1 versus 1 with a fighter, the fighter probably is going to shoot you down because you're not that maneuverable. But attackers also have quite an armament. They have quite some guns, as you can see. I still have 12.7 machine guns times 8. So if a plane's one, so if I have someone in my sight, he's probably going to blow up. But attackers, they carry a lot of bombs, a lot of rockets, but they are not that accurate as a dive bomber. and they do not carry that much bomb as a heavy bombs as a heavy bomber. So it's kinda in between a fighter and yeah. So a fighter and a bomber. Next we have the flying boat. The flying boat is that people never actually use this plane unless it's for shits and giggles. The flying boat, you're going to fly it in some missions, but that's around it. The flying boat, that's what the word it says. You can use this plane as a boat also. There are only two flying boats in the plane now, in the game now. That's a PBY-5, and we have the H6K4. That these are the only flying boats now in the game. Also a medium bomber. A medium bomber is between a light bomber and a heavy bomber in between. They are more maneuverable than heavy bombers. They are quicker. They are more maneuverable, but they carry less bombs, and also they mostly have a less defensive armament than heavy bombers. Medium bombers, I do like them because they're pretty quick, and they still carry well more bombs than a light bomber. So that's what I like about it. It can still carry up to 2,000 kilogram of bombs, so it can still deal a big punch as a medium bomber, and you're more accurate. So yeah, but the defensive armament is not that great mostly. There are exceptions, of course. Um, there we go. B-25 is also a medium bomber. This is what I mean by an exception, that the B-25 still can defend its own pretty good. Now we have a heavy bomber. A heavy bomber, everyone knows the B-17, I think. A heavy bomber is a very big bomber, and it has a very high defensive armament. Like for example, the B-17 here has 4 turrets of two 12.7 M2 boarding machine guns, and it has 5 turrets of one 12.7 M2 boarding machine guns. So it has 9 turrets. It can defend its own sometimes, and it can carry up to 4,000 kilograms of bombs. But they are not that maneuverable. The climb rate is not that great either, and they are very difficult to land and take off with also because of their massive size, and they're very big. So they're like easy prey for fighters, and yeah, because you're so big, you're easy to hit. So fighters are going to feast on you, especially the heavy fighters. And I haven't I haven't discussed the heavy fighters yet. The heavy fighters, they have a big armament. They carry a lot of guns, heavy fighters, but mostly they are modified bombers, so they do not have a high maneuverability. Mostly heavy fighters are made to take out other heavy fighters or big attackers or heavy bombers. Mostly you're going to face heavy bombers with this, because they can carry lots of guns, but they're not very maneuverable. They're not maneuverable at all. Don't even try to turn fight with them. Don't even try to turn fight with this play, I mean. Um, because in a 1 versus 1 with a fighter, you're going to be taken down. But if you can get your guns on target, you're going to well, you're going to get him in one burst. So yeah, he shouldn't stand a chance. Next up we have jet fighters. Jet fighters, this is a bad example because it's actually a rocket plane. Here we go, P-80, jet fighter. Jet fighters you're going to unlock very late in the game in era 5. Oh, excuse me. Jet fighters, they are all boom and zoomers. Don't even try to turn fight with a jet fighter. Jet fighters, they regain their energy very quickly. But I'm not really going to tell more about jet fighters because by the time you unlock some jets, you know enough how to play them. So yeah. So you have jet fighters and you have jet bombers. There are only 4 jet bombers now in the game. When I started, there was only 1 jet bomber. So we have the jet bombers. It's what the word says. They're very quick, and they can still carry quite some bombs. Here we go, another jet bomber, another 2 jet bombers, and here we get another jet bomber. So that's a jet bomber. They're very quick. They deliver their payload is pretty good also, and most of them do not have a defensive armament except the IL-28, which is now in game. But the IL-28 doesn't have that much either. I mean, just 2 turrets, that's it. So yeah. Uh, that's it about the tech tree. Now I'm going to talk about your yeah, those colors here, what you can see. You have the color in blue. If you have a color in blue, that means that you unlocked it and you can immediately play it if you put it in your lineup here. So that's blue. Then we have light blue. I mean dark blue. Dark blue, it means that you can research it if you want. So if I research it, I can research it if I want. That's light blue. Also, the amount of experience what you need will always be there. So that's light blue. What's dark red is that you can't research it. That you can't research it yet. So you first have to unlock the previous plane before you can research this plane. That's dark red. So as you can see, I can't research the F-84 and all the F-86s also because I don't have them. You may think like, how did you get this? That's because the F-2H Banshee got added in later in the game, and I already got the F-9 F2 before this one was added. That's why I skipped this plane like that, and also the F7F, same story. And then you have light red. Light red means that it's damaged. Uh, Before you're going to take this plane into a battle, you first need to repair it. So I'm going to repair it very quickly. And as you can see, it turned blue again. So if it turns blue, it's ready to fight. You can take it into a battle. Then we have those brown planes. The brown planes are the premium planes. The premium planes, they earn the double amount of silver lions. That's the in-game, not premium money, by the way. It's kinda, if you Wall of Tanks, is the same as silver. So they earn double amount of experience, and they earn the double amount of silver lions also. And mostly the brown planes are mostly, there are exceptions, mostly they're prototypes, and they are prototypes and they are land lease or captured planes for other nations. Like for example, here we have a American captured Bf-109 F4. So you can fly the Bf-109 F4 into an American battle if you want. So that's it around. Oh yeah, and the tanks. Yeah, the tanks. So the tanks. This is probably where you're the most interested in, coming from World of Tanks. So you have light tanks. Light tanks, they're very quick, they're very maneuverable, but they do not have a lot of armor, and they do not have a lot of armament either. So they're very maneuverable, they're very quick, but they do not deal a big punch, and they're very easy to take down also once if you hit them, because they are very, like I said, they're very quick, and they're also mostly very small also, so they're pretty difficult to hit though. But once if you hit them, it's an easy kill, probably will blow up in one shot. So that's a light tank. Next up we have a medium tank, and I'm going to switch over to another nation because I have more tanks here. There you go. And as you can see, I still have some tanks in dark red, so that means that I can't use them. I first have to repair them. So next up we have a medium tank. The medium tank is kinda between a heavy tank and a light tank. And the medium tank is still pretty fast. It has quite some armor to withstand some smaller guns, but the bigger guns and the medium guns will probably get through your armor. Of course, like I said so many times before, there are exceptions like the Russian T-54. The T-54 is a bunker on wheels. Don't even try to shoot at its front plate, you're going to bounce. But mostly they are pretty maneuverable. They're not as fast as a light tank. They have quite some armor, and the gun is, well, most of the times the guns is pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, that's a medium tank for you. Next up we have a heavy tank. The heavy tank, like for example here the famous Tiger. Heavy tanks, they have lots of armor mostly, but they are very slow and they're not that maneuverable, and they mostly have to be supported by other medium tanks because you can't fight on your own, and they deal a big punch mostly also, because of their big guns. If a heavy tank shoots at you, you're going to blow up probably, unless it's shooting at another heavy tank. Um, so that's a heavy tank. They're not that maneuverable, but they do have lots of armor, and they have a big gun also. Next up we have tank destroyers. Tank destroyers, they're all for the big gun. The gun on the tank destroyer is even more
it's even better than the one on the heavy tank. The guns on a tank destroyer will always cut through your armor. If you shoot something with a tank destroyer, you're mostly going to penetrate. The tank destroyers, it depends on what kind of tank destroyer. Sometimes they're pretty fast, sometimes they're pretty slow. It depends on what kind of tank destroyer you are playing with. But in turn of that, the armor on a tank destroyer is 50-50 also. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's not a lot. Mostly the tank destroyers are all about the gun. Um, and most of the tank destroyers do not have turrets either, so just saying. Next up we have SPAA. If you're from World of Tanks, you do not know what this is. SPAA is anti-aircraft tanks. In War Thunder, tank battles, you have mixed battles. So that means that you can fly with that you can fly with planes, and that you can play as a tank. And trust me, it is balanced. Don't worry. But if you can play with anti-aircraft and try to take some planes down. So that's the tanks for you. I think I'm going to stop it here, and this is your basic knowing of the tanks, and well, and all the things you have to know for all this beneath. Oh yeah, this is where no, I'm going to hold this for the next video. So I'm going to cut the video here. I'm going to split this video up in two parts for the hangar. Next video I'll be talking about all these kinds of statistics and all the buttons here above, and then we'll go into your first battle. So see ya.